Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Woman of Inspiration Boards, and this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who lead, inspire, and motivate. So today I have a very special guest on the show. She is not someone who's only reshaping the conversation around women's health, but doing so with courage, clarity, and compassion. Dr. Jila Senemar is a respected physician, educator, and advocate for women in midlife and beyond. While many know her for her clinical expertise, what makes her story even more powerful is her willingness to get honest, especially around social media, and the gaps in the medical education around menopause. Her journey sparks her deep purpose for midlife and beyond. With over 2 decades of experience, Dr. Jila blends evidence-based medicine, hormone therapy, and longevity science to create personalized care that helps women thrive, not just survive, through midlife. She is also a speaker, educator, advisor, dedicated to make women's health a global priority. Now, today we're diving into what all women should know about menopause, how to prepare, the truth about HRT, and how this chapter can be one of our strongest and most transformational yet. Plus, we'll hear what inspires her, her support hers, and how she defines what it means to be a woman of inspiration. So welcome, Dr. Jila, to the Woman of Inspiration podcast.
Thank you, Monica, for having me. Excited to be here today and have this conversation.
So what I'd like to start off with all our guests is we see where you are today, but I'd like to go back for there's lots of women interested about your career path and your journey. And I think sometimes that gets over kind of people jump over that part.
Mhm.
And that to me is really interesting, especially for the younger audiences and the younger women listening to how did she get to where she is? So let's start from the beginning. Did you always know that you wanted to become a doctor?
Um, yes, actually, I'm a daughter of two immigrants. So I immigrated to the US back in the mid 80s from the Middle East, from Iran. And the goal was for me to, have a different career path than what I could have been afforded back home. So it was more about education and then family, not the other way around. And so my parents really, that was the goal, was to come here to become educated, and that way I could always stand on my own 2 feet and not have to depend on anybody. And that was something instilled within me from my parents, both my mother and my father. And I knew medicine was what I was drawn towards. We had a neighbor where I grew up in Northern Cal, and he was an OBGYN. And I remember spending the summers with him in his office just to kind of see what it was that he did. And anyone who knows anything about OBGYN knows the field is very demanding. You're always on call. Babies come whenever they want to. And, that was always there. I would say, oh, I really enjoy this field. And it was always, well, you're a woman. You're going to be having a family. You're not going to want to leave to go deliver babies. So think about this. Maybe this isn't the right option for you. But I'm one of those who, once I decide this is something I want to do, really, you cannot dissuade me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it my way, whatever that is. And I'll figure it out as I go. So I really wasn't dissuaded. So medicine was for me. All through college, I knew that was my path. So I kept going. And, whenever there were little obstacles in my way, I would find a loophole around it. Okay. So I didn't get into a US school. Okay. But I'll go abroad. I don't mind. I'm not going to lose time. Others would go and get other degrees, do research, and then reapply. I didn't have that kind of time frame. I really wanted just to get there. So I kept going, went abroad for 18 months, came back to California, finished up in California, and decided I'm still going into obstetrics and gynecology. And there was no really changing my mind. I had gone into every rotation with an open mind to make sure that I wasn't going to, regret a decision later on in life. And nope, I couldn't do it. Every time, I would do internal medicine. I said, this is great. I love it, but nope, not for me. I went into pediatrics. I love taking care of, the kids. But again, I just didn't feel the same passion that when I did OBGYN. Every part of it sparked interest within me. When it was, I would just light up. I didn't care what time of day or night it was where they were calling me for a delivery. I just wanted to be there. And it just kind of kept solidifying my decision. And so when it came time for residency, OBGYN is it's very competitive. And I was open. I said, I'll go anywhere. It doesn't really matter. I do not have to be in one state. At that time, my husband, who was my boyfriend back then, he was in Miami doing pediatrics. And I decided, well, I want to stay in Miami so bad. And I did a lot of rotations and it didn't work out. I literally didn't match. And I had to end up in New York, of all places, somewhere I've never been, scary as anything. But you know what? It wasn't going to, take me off my course, my track. And sure enough, the best decision I ever made for myself was to go to New York alone, find a little apartment, and completely changed everything for me. I knew from the minute I stepped foot into the hospital that this is where I needed to be.
Mm.
And everything else kind of followed. My husband finished residency in Miami, came to New York for fellowship, and we both ended up finishing at the same time. So, you know, things are meant to happen a certain way. Sometimes it doesn't look it when it's happening. So you're kind of like, and my husband was always like, are you sure this OBGYN is what you want to do? Remember the call? I said, I know, you know me. I need to do what I have a passion for. And I'll figure it out. And he was always supportive. He's like, okay, we'll figure out what's going to happen and we'll go from there. So we finished residency and we were supposed to actually end up in DC. He was at Georgetown. I was at GW. Those were our first jobs. And as soon as we land in DC, Miami calls and asks him to come interview for a position of one of his old attendings. And he got the job. And I had, connections in Miami, people I had rotated with at University of Miami. And I called them up. I said, hey, this is happening. What do you have anything for me? They're like 110%. We want you back at UM. Come back. And within months, like I was back in Miami, working at the university and, having a family. I had already had my first son and I moved to Miami. I'm already pregnant with my second son. So things worked out. From there, I went into private practice with one of my co-residents from New York. His father had an existing practice. We joined, and I became one of the first generation, female OBGYNs in the community. There were others, but I was like one of the younger ones, and built a practice for over 20 years, basically here in Miami, doing robotic surgery, obstetrics, gynecology. And the way my practice began was very tailored to me. I had 3 young children at the time, 3 under 3, and they said, do what feels right. So we want you want to do office GYN and not do deliveries? Fine. Until your kids are all in school, then you can go full time. And that's exactly what I did. I was doing GYN when the kids were all, I think what, 3, 2, and 1, and they were all in school, preschool. I went full time, deliveries, surgery, all the above. And I've been doing that ever since, full time for 19 years now. And here we are.
Wow, that is quite a career path and journey. I always love to hear those stories. And, you said we don't see it at the right time, but we're always going the right direction. And every single woman that I've talked to, it's never a straight line.
Mm-mm.
It's always a little bit of a zigzag, but you're always going in the right direction. So
Right.
it's really interesting to see how, you stayed with the vision, how you got to where
Hmm.
you're going, made a take a right or a left turn, but you're there now. I had a bunch of, questions in regards to your leadership, but I think that I want to go back to a question that we were talking about in the green room, because it really does relate to, all of your almost 2 decades of experience in the medical industry. And now using your voice in such a unique way to really champion for women for something that you're so passionate about. So you've been incredibly open online about your own experience navigating menopause. So what was that turning point that made you say, this needs to change?
As providers, we always have answers. That's what we're there for, is to assist, give good advice, and guide our patients and give them the best care. It started with patients in perimenopause coming to me, unbeknownst to them as well as me, that that's what was happening. Periods were off, they just didn't feel right. And I just kept saying, okay, let's see what we can do about it. And, a few of them qualified for maybe birth control pill options. And I did that for a little bit, but it just didn't sit right. I knew something was off. Like there were a missing piece. I'm like, why are they all complaining about the same stuff? And they're young. So I wasn't connecting the dots. And it wasn't until COVID and all of that started happening that I started noticing some changes. And, we're physicians. We always, I personally like to be my own guinea pig. And I just kept checking blood work every month. And I was like, well, my labs are fine. So nothing's going on. Then the next month, my labs were not fine. So that's where I saw the shift in hormones. I was like, wait, something's going on. Periods and all that's, what we talk about, it was all there, but something else was happening in the background that, again, it was taking me a second to connect the dots. And it wasn't until I finally plotted out my own labs and I was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm there. Like this is just fluctuating. I'm in that flux zone and things are changing. The weight gain is happening and nobody else was seeing it but me. But I know myself. I know what fits, what doesn't. The midsection thing. And I was like working out more than ever. So all of that hit, and I was like, oh no, something's going on. And it wasn't until I did a deep dive at 2, 3 in the morning myself. And luckily, I came across the Menopause Society somehow. And that was the beginning of the end for me, basically. I went down the rabbit hole, like we all say. And I was like, oh my goodness, what have I been missing? This is terrible. How can I get that book? Let me get the book. Let me start reading and let me get all the data, like get everything. And I couldn't stop. Like that was my next thing, was just that. In the meantime, now I'm looking at my patients differently. I'm speaking to them differently. And, it just started an evolution basically where I was like, okay, no one's here to help me. I need to help myself. I asked around and, it was like, oh, well, go to this person and they'll give you compounded this and that. And it just didn't feel right. I was like, no, there's more to this than what meets the eye. We need to know. And I spoke with my partners and what, and they're like, yeah, remember we didn't really talk about this. And it was really looked down upon to do hormones because of the side effects and the risks. So just really be careful with what you're going to do. And I said, I took it with a grain of salt. Okay, no problem. But once again, I was like, but determined, I was like, no, there's more, there's more. Then luckily social media was a thing at the time, not as amazing as what it is now, but it was starting. And that's where I was like, see, there are others. And so I started kind of following everyone and who are they following? And again, vetting, I need to make sure I'm not just, I need somebody who's on the same level. We're educators. We've all been through the training. So we were all saying the same thing. Everyone's like, we missed it. I was bad and I was this and not by choice. We just weren't really educated. It was, it not only was a study that took out care for, patients, but also providers. We were kind of blindsided by it too. Yeah. Yeah. So it was double-sided. And so that's where I made the pivot was this is missing. No one's doing it. No one in my community is touching it with a 10-foot pole. They're
Right,
like,
because it's so, until
no,
very
it's not good.
recently, I mean, with the findings, how the warning labels, we'll talk
Yes.
about that. I mean,
Hmm. It's
so
crazy.
as
It's a
an
lot.
educator, you really jumped in with both feet when people
Yeah.
are like going tread with caution, you have
Yeah.
your reputation,
Yep.
so it's a scary zone. I mean, and then there's women like me, and I shared that it wasn't until this past February when I went
Hmm.
into the and met you actually at the
Yeah.
event. And at 54, I had probably 75% of the symptoms, but I didn't even
Yeah.
know because I couldn't even connect the dots.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
I know is that I wasn't really feeling on my game. I wasn't
Hmm.
motivated, even the motivation piece. I
Yeah.
thought I was depressed. And I mean, nothing was working. And I didn't realize how important it was until I actually got on the HRT track. And that's where I would love to start and dive into a little bit more like that. Um, so let's talk about HRT. since we're here right now.
Hmm.
There is so much confusion about it. And I think it's becoming, I mean, the more that we can talk about it, the more that we can, help with that confusion. But when is it safe to start? And when should women be starting to ask their doctors about it?
So I really talk a lot about, because I think I'm going to divide it up into perimenopause and menopause, because menopause, we understand it better now, and women are picking up on it. They don't know period, hot flashes, other symptoms. They know now to ask there. The problem is now the perimenopausal women who can be in their 30s, not even realizing that that's what's happening to them, and they have another 10 years to go through this journey. So my biggest focus now is on the perimenopausal women, because I want to make sure they don't fall through the cracks, because they're the ones that are being dismissed left and right and saying, you're too young for it. Yeah, no, you still have your periods. Wait, you don't have a hot flash? So what are you asking me for? You're fine, go home. That's where I'm seeing a lot of problems and a lot of miscommunication, and patients seeking, luckily, second and third opinions. So perimenopause, late 30s, early 40s, you can still have a period, but they're becoming irregular. They're becoming longer, shorter, every 3 months, or you have mood symptoms, anxiety, focus problems that you never really had before. You're becoming more temperamental with your friends at work. You're just not, like you said, on your A game. You're like, something's off and I can't really put my finger on it. Is it stress of life, or is it and we tend to, as women, we're just, built that way. I think society has put it upon us where we can do anything and everything, and nothing's going to slow us down. And yes, I'm 41 and I have 3 kids that I'm taking to school, drop off, going to work, picking up, doing after school activities, then going home, making dinner, doing homework. And then now things are falling through the cracks, and you're like, what is wrong with me? I need to do better. It's not your fault. It's your body isn't cooperating with you. And it's just because there's an underlying problem going on. So that's really what I want women to pay attention to, and really dig into it and understand it and know that they're not alone. It's not in their head. They don't need an antidepressant necessarily. They need to find a provider who's going to listen to them. And the labs are great. They're a baseline, but they're not the end all be all. It's a baseline. That's what I tell them. I'm like, don't expect it to show me anything crazy. Maybe if there's a thyroid or an iron problem, I'll pick it up, but maybe not. Maybe it is hormonal, and we won't know until we try you out on the hormone therapy and you start feeling better. Then there's your answer right there. So, that's really how I go about it with them. A lot of them are open. They just want to feel better. They just want to be back to themselves so they can do everything that they want to do.
So there is, so a woman, like when I was in my, early 40s even,
Hmm.
or let's say, I mean, you're still in your childbearing years until you stop having a period. So
Correct.
there is actually no, you can still be on hormone therapy, still have your periods, because that was
Hmm.
a big thing too. I was told that I had to wait a full year until I hit menopause before I could start taking
Start.
HRT.
Yeah.
So I was, literally 54. And then I'm like, gosh, I can't even remember when the last time I had a period is. And all of a sudden, I'm
Yeah.
supposed to remember that was a year ago. And I try and think back. So what you're saying is that you can actually start that therapy as preventative instead of
Yes.
proactive,
Reactive, basically. Yeah. So
reactive.
basically, what I tell my patients, especially the ones who are like 39, 40, right? They're done having babies. Either there's a vasectomy or permanent sterilization or something like that. And if it's, I don't, we know they're done having kids. Now they're still ovulating, but again, they can get on hormone therapy to regulate their symptoms. Just like when they were younger, we would put them on birth control pills to regulate the cycles. This is a similar concept, because guess what? It's a spectrum. That was
Mm.
puberty. This is, again, like, they're calling it, millennial menopause, millennial pause. These are the things, or cougar cougar puberty. That was the newest one I've seen
Oh
out
my
there.
goodness. Oh
Yeah.
dear.
Oh yeah. There's all different terminology for it, but imagine you're on that spectrum. You had those hormonal shifts, when you were going through puberty. Now you're going through it again. as a perimenopausal woman, and this can last between 5 and 10 years, who wants to lose that kind of time? No one. And people who have lost it, they really are upset with themselves and with their provider that I could have been feeling better like this 5 years ago. Why did I have to struggle like that to get here? And now finally someone's listening to me. And the problem with that is what can happen in those 5 years? You can go through a divorce, you can end a relationship because of not understanding the dynamics of what's happening. You can lose a job, you can lose a promotion, you can lose friendships over this. So it's really more involved than let's just treat symptoms and put them on hormones. It's an overall thing that you have to look at. It's an overhaul. And unless women are educated and know what to be looking for, therefore they can advocate better for themselves, we need to help. That's where it's all at. And so, yes, can they be on hormones at that juncture? 110% they can be. Then they ask me, well, then how long can I stay on this? So that's the next biggest question. So then the answer becomes you stay on it till you go through menopause. Then you technically have another 10 years where you're going to reap the benefits of hormone therapy. And then we decide on a year-to-year basis what you want to do.
So my question is, I mean, I in my mom's era, right? She's 80.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember her telling me after I got the bone density scan, which was collecting dust because I really thought, I'm healthy. Why do I need that? I had no idea the impact of that as well is, a marker for
Mm-hmm.
your bone density and your estrogen leaving your body, and you can talk to that as well. But here's what I told her when I got my bone density exam, I was abnormal. And I'm like, how did that happen? Well, then connecting the dots, probably a little bit of hereditary because she's
Mm-hmm.
osteopenia. But with all the research about the estrogen leaving your body,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish I would have got my bone density scan done a lot earlier than,
Mm-hmm.
54. So I would have had a better baseline. But when I was talking to my mom, she goes, you know what? I wish I knew that information now. She's in her 80s and, she talked about, we call it her woo. Like she says it felt like knives were in her
Mm-hmm.
woo. And I'm like, looking back at those conversations, nobody could figure out what it was. And it was just like because of her lack of estrogen probably
Estrogen.
in her
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And so my mom's era of women had to suffer through that,
Right.
and it just makes me really sad because their bones are all, like us.
Brittle, they're falling.
They're
Yeah.
brittle. You hug
Yeah.
her, you can hear her
She's
creak.
tiny. They keep shrinking year
They
by
shrink.
year. Yeah. Yeah.
So, is there anything that we can do? And I'm just asking this if,
Mm-hmm.
for the parents of the kids, like our generation,
Mm-hmm.
our parents, what can they do?
So here's the thing, and I'm going to go back to U.S. Preventive Task Force, and they're the ones who kind of set the guidelines of when testing should be done. And for bone density, the testing time is 65. So what do you think is going to happen to most women by the age of 65? They're,
It's too
they're,
late.
it's too late. You've already missed the boat on prevention. So what we have begun to do is we do them earlier. I do them in their 40s, 45 and over. Everyone's getting a preventative bone screening. Now, it can be, I can go based on their family history, frailty, if there's something that happened in the family, mom with osteopenia, porosis, they had a frailty fracture, like, something small that did. Those are all factors, risk factors that I can use to have their insurance cover it. Others, my patients are educated. They're like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care how much it costs. I still want to know because guess what? What we have a lot of guidelines from the Menopause Society, and the one that they have specifically for hormone therapy is vasomotor symptoms and osteoporosis prevention. So, hence, a patient 44 who comes up with a little bit of osteopenia, that's the biggest patient I need to jump on and say, hey, even if your symptoms aren't terrible or you're still having a period, we need to have a discussion about hormone therapy to optimize you. So that way, this osteopenia stops in its tracks. Okay. And we can actually reverse it because estrogen is the one thing we know that can prevent bone breakdown and allow bone formation, both. The medications that we give later, the bisphosphonates and things like that, they prevent more bone breakdown, but they don't rebuild. There's only a couple that do, but again, those are really out there, and they're not easy to use, and side effect profile is not the best on them. So patients would prefer to be preventative rather than reactive later and have to deal with something. Someone in their 80s, what's the best thing to do is, honestly, at that point, it's just optimize them with calcium, vitamin D3, and even exercise, to even try and give a little bit of weight bearing to build up the little muscles and the bone that they have, so it just doesn't worsen going forward.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, my mom's a rule follower to the T, Dr.
Mhm.
Jilla, and she's out there swimming, doing all of
Yes.
her stuff, and even plucking her weeds. And probably the worst
Yeah.
advice I've heard somebody tell someone is, um, don't do anything because you might
Yeah.
fall. I
Fall.
mean,
Yeah. No.
anyways, so thank you for that. That's really helpful. So to recap, when women, for all the women that are listening, really important, what should they be going into and asking their doctors if they're sort of in that perimenopause stage?
Mhm. They should go in and honestly have a candid discussion with their provider about their symptoms and how it's affecting their daily quality of life. Because if you just have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's not really changing how you function, that's okay. Doesn't mean you shouldn't bring it up. But now I have a questionnaire that they fill out. And if we go over it and we discuss, they're like, well, I don't really have a lot. I have them take the questionnaire home and I have them keep it there. And once the symptoms start happening in the next maybe 3 to 6 months, it may happen, then I have them start ticking it off. And I tell them, if this starts to fill up, you need to come back. That way, it's not another year where they've lost all this time. If I can get them back in 6 months, we can start them on therapy or even do like lifestyle modification changes, do some supplementation to maybe get them through the beginning stages until they're ready for the hormone therapy. But it shouldn't be you need to wait till you're through menopause, no more periods to come in and get started. Absolutely not.
No, and I honestly wish I started in my 40s, and I actually wish I knew what to ask for
Hmm.
to get that started, because like you are
Yeah,
just been sharing, there wasn't the education around it,
correct.
and it's almost like when you hit your 40s,
Yeah.
you should be a candidate anyways, because we are going to go through it. We're not going to
Hmm.
go over this speed bump,
No.
regardless if we get the symptoms full blown and some are easier and some are more. We're all going to go through it. We're all going to lose our estrogen.
Hmm. Yep. So let's be proactive about it and not just wait until everything falls apart and then come in, sobbing and not knowing what to do.
So I want to talk about the importance of tracking the periods. And I thought, oh, just one more thing to add to my to-do list. So what kind of things can we learn from tracking our periods?
So remember, the period, the cycle itself has different phases to it. So there's a follicular phase, and then there's the ovulatory phase, and then, your luteal phase. So what you can learn about your body, and most women actually, when they're in their 20s and 30s, they're not that in tune to what's happening. I think it takes having a child or even being a little older, then you kind of tune in and you're like, oh, I think I ovulated. I think I know when that was. They start picking up on the cues. So, what I like patients to do is keep track of the cycles. How far apart are they? How many days are they lasting? How is the flow? Because the flow may be the same and they're lasting 5 days, but now they're every 36 days where they used to be every 28 days. So, there's a shift in the length of the cycle, or they're still every 28 days, but instead of lasting 5 days, they're lasting 2 days. Again, another variation, or they're heavier, which is another thing that happens in perimenopause is the periods are coming twice a month. Sometimes they're coming once a month, but they're really heavy, making the patient anemic with passage of clots and other things. And they're like, what is going on with me? This is not normal. And sometimes we find an anatomical reason for it, but most of the time it's hormonal fluctuations because of what's happening with your estrogen and your progesterone levels. Like estrogen is skyrocketing, and so that lining is building up, and we're having heavier and longer periods. So if they're able to track those things, then we can actually look at it and be like, there it is. You're actually right in the midst of all of this, and this is why it's happening.
Beautiful. I know this has been a really great podcast. Thank you so much for sharing all this wealth of information. I want to talk about this phase of perimenopause and menopause not being just a stage that we're surviving through, but really an opportunity of transformation and empowerment. So, how can women shift that narrative from decline to one of strength, confidence, and empowerment?
It 100% is in a decline. That's what like women need. I put that in their mind every time they walk in. I'm like, this isn't the end. This is just the beginning of the next phase. And you don't even know how amazing it can be on the other side. So this is just a change. Just like puberty was a change, just like reproduction was a change, and Lisa Mosconi says it the best in the M Factor documentary. It is the best part of that, like one of the best parts, where she's like, when we go through puberty, we kind of coddle them. Oh, so cute. Oh, you're a young lady now. When you start having babies, oh, amazing. We have baby showers. Why isn't there something at the end? Now when we're going through perimenopause and menopause, that's another thing to celebrate. Hence why Tamsin had the world's hottest menopause party. Okay. There you
Oh
go.
yeah. Yep.
That's it. That's
In the
that. That was
Halle
the
Berry with the siesta.
Exactly. That's the whole point, is we need to celebrate this next stage. We are becoming different, better versions of ourselves. We are becoming unapologetic. We're going out there and moving barriers, and shifting narratives. And this is where it's at. This generation of women, we're not going down without a fight. We're not those quiet people. We're going to question everything. And you know what? And that's why our daughters and they're not going to struggle through this. They're going to have it all figured out for them by the time they get there. My kids know. I have two boys and my daughter's 19. They know all about this. They're very well versed in perimenopause and menopause because they've been hearing me evolve and change and go through all of this, and they're like, oh no, we know about this. And they talk to their friends about it, and the friends are like, I think my mom, something's wrong. Yeah, your mom needs to go see my mother because yeah, she's going through menopause. And they're educating their friends at the age of 20 and 21. That's what we need to bring out. And that's why when women tell me that, they're like, oh, I think I'm just done, I'm like, oh no, we're going to have a talk. I literally said, I'm more of a psychologist coach these days. I'm like, no, that is not appropriate. You have a lot. I'm like, what is wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's good. Financially, they're stable. They have a great relationship. Their kids are healthy, doing well. I said, so what's the problem? Well, I just don't feel right. Okay, we're gonna get to that. But I want you to understand that this is not you. This is your body. It's missing something. And now we just need to kind of, put it back in and make you feel like yourself again.
And I have to say, it is pure magic. It is game changing. And for myself, night and day,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
literally night and day. I was just like, I ran to the door, got my bone density, and I got an HRT right away.
Mm-hmm.
And within 3 weeks, probably
Yeah.
even a little bit sooner, I noticed it, the knee, the arm, the hip, all those little pains that made you feel like you're 90 years old when
Yeah.
when you normally are able to do lots of things. So yes, I'm super excited, and I'm on the train of these are the most transformational, powerful years for women because our kids are older. And now in our
Yeah.
50s, we've got the wisdom, we've got the strength. There is no stopping us. Like it is power out, full
Mm-hmm.
force. It's really a beautiful stage. And the more that we can talk about that with other women about forget about the decline, it's the acceleration.
Right. Right. And again, discovering something new for yourself. Like, how do we know what's out there? Honestly, this path for me, it just kind of just evolved. Like, I wasn't looking for anything in particular. It was just a matter of let me do the right thing by my patients and let me get the education I should have to provide the best care for them. Then what comes next? It's like, okay, well, now let's talk about the M factor. Now let's do more educational things for the community. And it's just kind of being paved organically on its own. And we're all here for it. I'm like, okay, you know what? There's a community here. There's people to support one another. As I'm sure you've seen in that, in Vegas, like that was incredible to have that kind of community all come together. You're never going to see anything like that.
Yeah, it's quite exceptional. And of course, Women of Inspiration, we celebrate the achievements of women, over the past decade. And so, celebration is a big piece of my world, and, encouraging women to step into the spotlight, own their worth, and to really, take up that space. And so, why is it critical, Dr. Jilla, for women to celebrate every stage of their life, not just in youth, but especially as we grow into our wisdom years?
Because we're not done yet. They have so much more to give, and you need to be celebrated for that. And I've met so many women along the way who have switched career paths at 50, 51, 52, and they're like, and they're happier for it. So they were, let's say a neonatologist prior, and now they are a health and wellness, coach, and they're just illuminated talking about it. You can see it in their face. I met so many different ones, and one was a doctor and now anesthesiologist, and now she does women's wealth and teaching women about how to manage their finances. So there are so many evolutionary paths to take. It's just, what's your passion? And you don't even know it, honestly. I think women need to know this, that they have this within themselves, and to go out there and explore and find it.
Mm. I think, and belief in yourself,
Hmm.
confidence, have
Hmm.
that confidence to
Yeah,
just go do it, because nobody's going to be able to do it for you. So I
right.
think that's one thing really important. Dr. Jill, we are coming to our end, but I do have some other questions to ask. You talked a little bit about your support system, and for us, support her has been part of welcoming the men to the conversation that are advocates and champions for women. So, who have some of those support hers been in your world, and why is it so important for men to be part of that conversation?
I think they need to be, because they're the other half of this whole equation. Like, so it's not just happening to us, it's happening to them as well. And they don't even realize what's going on. So, and they're kind of caught off guard. They're walking around on eggshells. So I think they need to be part of it, understand what's going on. That way they can best support the women they love in their life, because it's not just about their wife, it's their sisters, their mothers, their aunts, their cousins. So it's not one-sided. This is a dual-sided conversation. So husbands, kids, sons, they need to know, why is mom kind of acting kooky? Why is she going off the handle? Now they understand it. And it's going to help them in the future with their partners, their wives, their coworkers who are females. I think this conversation needs to be brought
Mm,
into the workplace, because, hey, you have high level CEO women, and they're going through this. They don't know, they can't function in a boardroom, and then they're looked upon like, what's going on with her? Something's wrong. Nothing's wrong with her. She just needs a little support, and she'll be back to being, the kick-ass person that she was before. So don't discount her just yet. So there's a lot to be said for men as part of this conversation. That way they know what's going on, they can support better and just be there. For me, I mean, my husband, obviously, because he's always been a cheerleader of mine in his own way, and he has seen the evolution of this space and mine, and he's all there, all in. Um, and I think others, the menopause, like they have, been there helping, supporting. I had, a lot of docs just come down to Miami a few months back for an event that we held here. And these were women I met in October in Chicago at the Menopause Society. We all converse on social media, or have you. But when I reached out and I said, would you be willing to come to Miami for a talk? I had an overwhelming number of doctors say yes. They took the time out of their own schedules to fly down to Miami for a 1 day event. These are the women. These are the change makers. And we're all, what we've learned is no one's out to get anyone else. This is not a competition. We're only going to get better if we support each other going through. And that's what I found with this community.
Beautiful. I love that so much. And it's about collaboration
Hmm.
and together we are stronger.
Yes.
And I always say this too. It's like when we celebrate one woman, we celebrate all women.
Oh,
So if we can help support one woman succeed, we actually raise the tide for us all. So
yeah.
I really love how this conversation is reshaping that. Dr. Jilla, it's been incredible having you on the Woman of Inspiration podcast. Of course, I would love to know. This is our, one of our final questions before
Mhm.
we do a quick little rapid fire. But what is your definition of a woman of inspiration to you?
A woman of inspiration is somebody who goes, who's looking within herself to do better for others. She's not looking for praise. This is somebody who's well balanced, who's grounded, and she's really doing the thing that makes her happy and she feels is the right thing to do, and it comes authentically. There shouldn't be any background to it. There shouldn't be any, I'm going to do this to get this reward. It's not about that. It's about knowing what's right and just going out there and doing it for all the right reasons.
Beautiful. And who are some of those women of inspiration in your world? Special shout out to them.
Mm. There's so many. I don't even know where to start, honestly. Um, the Dusty Muffins, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them. It's three doctors, Dr. Christine, Dr. Aoife O'Sullivan, and Dr. Rebecca Hurdle. They are some of the most amazing healthcare providers out there. And great support system. Anytime I have any questions, I just kind of reach out, I just need a pickup and they're there. I would say Dr. Jessica Shepard, we've become great friends quickly. And it's funny, she says, I'm so glad you kept hounding me to come to Miami because I was so busy. I wasn't paying attention. And, I told her, like, I really wanted you to come. I knew you were on your book tour and I was going to do anything I could to make you come down here. And she goes, that was the best thing you did, was just to keep hounding me. And I came, and, we have had the best friendship since. And, again, she's a great sounding board. These are some really strong women in the community who are not just doing the work on a daily basis, but, they're just out there and helping and getting the word out.
Beautiful. Well, it has been a pleasure speaking to you, and we're going to wrap up with a
Hmm.
rapid fire. And I love the rapid fire because these are just for fun, just a couple questions.
Hmm.
What's one thing you wish every woman knew about menopause?
The one thing I want them to know is it is not the end, it's the beginning. So just get ready and buckle in.
Perfect. Your daily non-negotiable for your health or your mindset?
Is my workout every morning, 1 hour to myself, doing my method, the Tracy Anderson method that I've been doing for over, I don't know, 7, 8 years. I have to have that in or else I can't function.
Beautiful. One book you think every woman should read?
Hmm. I still love the new menopause. I give it to all my patients when they come in because I just think it's an easy read. It's broken down beautifully and it just really goes through everything and has a checklist in there for the patients who bring it to me all the time.
On my shelf.
Yeah.
There it is, right there.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have these menopause books all over the place,
Everywhere. I have them too.
everywhere, everywhere.
Mhm.
So shout out to Dr. Marie Claire.
Mary Claire, she's great.
Mary
And now,
Claire is amazing.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. And what is your go-to way to recharge your batteries after a busy day?
Mm. Spending time at home with my kids if they're home, and if not, my husband and my two golden retrievers.
Beautiful. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, Dr. Jilla. This is the Woman of Inspiration podcast. I hope that for those of you that are listening, that you will seek to learn more about Dr. Jilla. How could they find you, Dr. Jilla, on Instagram? What is your handle?
On Instagram, it's Dr. Jila Senemar, just my name. They type it out and it's there. And I'm on there, trying to help and educate as much as possible.
Beautiful. And for those that are listening, I hope you found this conversation helpful, place market. And if you found something that was valuable, we say please share it with the world, share it broadly. We need to spread this message. And of course, thank you so much for joining us on the Women in Inspiration podcast. We say women of inspiration don't wait for opportunities, we create them. So thank you for creating this opportunity and this conversation with me today, Dr. Jilla, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a great time. Thank you.
You're welcome.